Welcome, good evening to the May 24th regular meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner District 2, Tim Sheldon.
I'm also here.
Commissioner District 3, Terry Jeffries.
That makes 3. Thank you. That takes us to item number 4 on our agenda, the correspondence and organizational business. Can you please report the correspondence received by the Commission?
Sure. The Olympic Region Clean Air Agency sent notification that assessment fees have increased. The Department of Natural Resources sent information regarding a plan to establish a natural resources conservation area. The Salmon Center sent a letter regarding seeking grant funds. Ken Van Buskirk sent a letter regarding the Salmon Center grant for the Sweetwater Creek project. Jeannie Raywald applied for the Thurston Mason BHO. And Sylvia Flores Milsom applied for the Planning Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Item 4.2, a news release, new leadership at Mason County. Staff, Terry Jeffries. I guess I'm staff now. Chair, Terry Jeffries. I'm very, very pleased to announce that Mason County Commissioners are pleased to announce the appointment of Dave Wyndham as the new Director of Community Services Department and Jerry Houth as the new Director of Public Works, Utilities, and Wastewater Management Department. Dave comes to Mason County from Colville, Washington, and has served as the administrator of the Northeast Tri-County Health District in Colville, Washington for approximately 6 years. The Community Services Department is an innovative approach to improving customer service by consolidating the departments of Building, Planning, and Public Health and Human Services. This consolidation of services is located in one building at 615 West Alder Street in Shelton. Jerry returns to Mason County from working for the City of Shelton and most recently as Managing Engineer for the City of Bremerton. The Public Works Department has the responsibility of engineering, construction, maintenance, and administration of the Mason County road system. The Utilities and Waste Management is a division of the Public Works Department and is responsible for managing water, wastewater, and solid waste facilities in the unincorporated areas of Mason County. We are excited to welcome this new leadership to Mason County and are certain both Dave and Jerry will bring fresh ideas on how to better serve our citizen. I'd like to invite them up to introduce themselves to you. And Mr. Houth, would you be willing to come up to our podium, introduce yourself, say a little bit about what your hopes and dreams are for your career here in Mason County?
No pressure there. Good evening, Commission. Good evening, audience. It's a treat to be back. It's really nice. And there are certainly going to be some challenges. The utilities, I think, are probably going to pose the most problem and require the most work and most focus for the foreseeable future. I'm confident we can get a handle on it. I don't think that there's anything that is really going to be require us to reinvent the wheel to make it work. We just need to provide some staff and guidance. But again, thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to be back.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you here. Dave Wyndham, will you please come and introduce yourself to the community, and what are your hopes and dreams?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners and audience. New to the west side. So I come to this side from Colville via Tonasket and then most of my life in Montana. So in a much drier place than here. So this is it's an exciting new adventure. My wife and I have been calling it the adventure for the last month. So the adventure begins. We're very excited about this position. This is a very unique position in Washington. Within a few minutes after announcing that I had taken this position, I started getting phone calls from all over the state saying, we're watching what Mason County does because this is a model that if it works, and I know it's going to work, it's a great concept, is going to be emulated across the state. So I think there's opportunity here. We're taking a couple of things that on the surface seem kind of disparate. You've got this very regulatory thing, and then you've got public health, and how do you get the two to mesh? Well, that's what we're going to work on. And we're going to have a one-stop shop, a very customer-oriented service, and that's going to be the key, is service to the community. So that's the goal.
We have a lot of hope in you.
Thanks.
We do. I just have to share that Mr. Wyndham comes from the other side of the state where one of the biggest issues is uranium mines and wolves. And today he got his first public Board of Health meeting in which he got a crash course on oysters and water quality and our culture over here. So I trust that you'll enjoy learning more about this side of the state.
Madam Chair, I'm really excited about our two new directors. I think they're going to bring a lot to the table. They're very talented people, and we're lucky to have them. So, welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you very much. So that takes us to item number 5. This is our open forum for citizen input. This is an opportunity for anybody to come to the podium and address the commission on any items that are not on the agenda. We do have 2 public hearings, and there will be an opportunity to testify on those issues or any of the other issues on the agenda. But if you wanted to address the commission on items not on the agenda, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized. Come to the podium and speak. Is there anybody who'd like to address the commission at this time? Okay, well, hearing none, then we will move on to item number 6, the adoption of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll second the motion to adopt the agenda presented tonight.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Approval of the minutes.
We have several sets of minutes, Madam Chair. I would move their approval. April 18 and 25 of 2016, the briefing minutes, and May 3rd and 10 of the 2016 regular meeting minutes.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the April 18th and 25th briefing minutes, May 3rd and 10th regular meeting minutes as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Next item is the approval of the action agenda. There are 12 items on our action agenda. We will read through each one of them, and citizens have an opportunity to either ask a question of any of the items on the agenda or to ask that any of the items be removed for a separate vote and testimony. So I will read the first 4. Commissioner Sheldon, I would ask you to read items 8.5 through 8.8, and Commissioner Netherland, 8.9 through 8.12. 8.10, approval of the resolution transferring emergency management, administrative, and functional responsibilities from Mason County Public Works Department to Support Services Department and amending Mason County Code Chapter 2.19 to reflect the creation of the Emergency Management Manager position to replace the Assistant Director position in County Code. 8.2, approval to award the post of quotes from Mason County Recreation Tourism Maps to Northwest Event Organizers Incorporated for 80,000 maps at a cost of $15,849.17 to be paid from lodging tax. 8.3, approval to submit a U.S. Department of Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program grant application for therapeutic courts. 8.4, approval of the Veterans Assistance Fund applications for necessity items totaling $450,000 and $450 and utilities $1,069.72 for a total of $1,519.72 as recommended by the Veterans Service Office.
Madam Chair, 8.5 starts approval for Public Works to advertise a request for proposals, RFP, for the collection and hauling of solid waste drop boxes from the main solid waste public drop box stations in Belfair, Hoodsport, and Union to the main solid waste transfer station on Ells Hill Road, and to award and enter into a contract and authorize the chair to sign all pertinent documents. Contract award will be announced during a regular meeting of the board. 8.6, approval of the Court Commissioner Professional Services Agreement at salary of 85% of a Superior Court judge for the period from June 30 through December 31, 2016. 8.7, approval to set a public hearing on Tuesday, June 21, 2016 at 9:30 a.m. to consider amendments to the Mason County Boating Regulations, Mason County Code Chapter 9.04. And approval to make the following appointments to the Mason County Lodging Tax Advisory Committee: Heidi McCutcheon, Shelton Chamber of Commerce; Arnold Hampton, Friends of Schaefer Lake Sylvia; Dwayne Wilson, Spender; Bonnie Knight, Generator; Sean Tucker, Generator; and Kelly Berg, Generator, for terms ending May 2018.
Madam Chair, item number 8.9 reads approval to reappoint Dave Jerstad to the Mason County Housing Authority Board of Commissioners for a term that ends July 1st, 2021. Item number 8.10, approval of an amendment number 8 of the Public Health Consolidated Contract number 17118 to add statements of work for emergency preparedness and response of National Estuary Program, the NEP Pollution Identification and Correction. These amendments have minor budgetary implications, but should not require a budget amendment. Item number 8.11, approval of the resolution amending the Mason County Personnel Policy Chapter number 8.3, reporting improper governmental action. Item number 8.12, approval of warrants. Claims Clearing Fund warrants number 803-9772 through 804-0076 for the amount of $955,569.08. Direct Deposit Fund warrants number 31235 through 31620 for the amount of $583,860.16. Salary Clearing Fund warrants number 7001874 through 7001917 for the amount of $934,790.34 for a total of $10,804,239.13. Claims clearing year to date is $9,285,588.63. Direct deposit year to date, $4,295,134.16, and the salary clearing year to date is $4,571,280.51.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions on any of the items that were just read? Commissioners, do you have any questions? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to have any of the items on the action agenda removed for a separate vote and testimony? Commissioners? Hearing,
No, I'm just going to make just a note that we have the approval for the professional services agreement for the Superior Court Commissioner, and we had approved that earlier just for 6 months, so this is just the last 6 months of 2016.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the action agenda as presented with no changes.
And I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to approve all the items, item 8.1 through 8.12 on today's action agenda. Is there any discussion? Good luck on the grant for the therapeutic courts. I sure hope that we can bring that money's here.
And I've just mentioned, again, just for a little clarification on 8.11, that's bringing us into compliance with the legislature and some of the RCWs that were recently passed about basically whistleblower protections.
Okay. Very necessary, that's for sure. Okay, then I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Thank you. That takes us, let's see, we are 15 minutes early for our public hearing. We are required by law to start the public hearing at 6:30 so that anybody that would want to attend and came at the exact time, they could do that. So that will take us, we will then move on to item number 10. That's the board reports and calendars. This is an opportunity for commissioners to share anything that they learned from some of the things that we sit on a lot of boards where we represent the county, and it's an opportunity to share what's going on there on those boards, as well as any times we might be together in the same location for public meetings laws compliance. So who would like to start?
I'll start. We got a captive audience. They can't get away. Usually
They're running.
they take off. Let's see. Let's go back. We did not have a meeting last Tuesday, and again, we're very sorry for your loss of your dad, and we understand you're out of town. I attended a meeting with the PUD1 and PUD3 and up in Marysville, actually, for the Northwest Power Association, and it was actually a very good meeting because we're all struggling with costs, and how to keep electric rates low. So most of the PUDs that we know here in Washington get our full requirements customers, unless you've got a dam like Chelan or Douglas or Grant County. So it's very important that we work with Bonneville Power Power Administration to keep rates as low as possible, because that's what keeps the lights on for people, especially low income. It's very difficult when rates continue to rise. I met with a couple contractors and also with the Port of Hoodsport during the week. A couple of contractors out in our area. One is Rogland's Construction out of Aberdeen that completed 2 hatcheries and a lot of work for the city of Tacoma, but they're also now starting a facility for the Skokomish tribe on Highway 101, and you'll see the land clearing that's underway there. And I believe it's a facility for recreation as well as tribal government. And also another project I think started today, which is the Ells Hill Hatchery, trout hatchery on the Skokomish River. It's not the hatchery you pass on 101, that's the George Adams hatchery, but it's about 5 miles up the Skokomish Valley Road. And that hatchery is the largest hatchery in the state for the Department of Fisheries for trout. And so almost all the trout that are planted in the lakes are produced there. So it's a large expansion project. They are placing I think it's 3,000 feet of 24-inch water line to a beautiful spring that's completely pure water. And much of that water line is on the surface of the ground when it was first installed, so when you get a downed tree or something that can interrupt the water supply, you can lose a lot of fish in a hurry. So they're replacing that with a 36-inch line that'll be all buried. So it's a multi-million-dollar job, and that'll be going on this summer. Let's see, I want to go back here and look at this week. Of course, we had our briefings yesterday and our meeting tonight. I spent some time with our Board of Health this morning, or this afternoon, of course, and talking about some budget items. I'll be around during the rest of the week meeting with some constituents and others, and we'll be back here on not here, but Tuesday the 31st. Memorial Day, of course, precedes that, and we'll be off, and we'll be having our 5th Tuesday meeting out in Belfair on the 31st. Thank you. Commissioner Netherland.
Sure. Okay, in the last week we had a Mason Transit Authority meeting. We had a meeting up north with the Department of Natural Resources in regards to shooting ranges and whether or not to have one up there in the North Mason area. It was very well attended. I'd say there was about 100 people that actually showed up. Yeah, a lot of input, and they broke everybody up, and it wasn't a complete waste of time. I'm not a fan of those. For those that know the little red dots and stuff, I'm not one of those guys. But they actually made use of separating people out, asking some good questions. I think it was beneficial, and I think it's coming. The question is how and what kind of structure will it be. We had our business retention meeting for the Economic Development Council. North Mason Chamber of Commerce Executive Board meeting. Had a meeting of the county's audit committee. I met with SPAT. Could you please explain what that is?
That is the Shelton Poverty Action Team.
I was asked to attend that. We talked about a lot of things, more especially the tiny houses, which is definitely something, a wave of the future, and I hope we are smart enough to take advantage of it. I went and met with the Puget Sound Partnership, Economic Development Council membership drive, Relay for Life Survival Dinner. I was supposed to tour the Hood Canal Bridge, but that accident that occurred, we were not able to go underneath it, and so that did not happen. The Armed Forces Parade, I met with Representative Jesse Young. The Kennedy Dinner, had our briefings. I attended the SEPA proposal at with the hearings examiner for the city of Shelton in regards to Sierra Pacific Industries and their shoreline plans and designs, and I think it went extremely well. Again, well attended. I'd say there was maybe 20 people that were there. At least 8 or 10 of them actually testified in favor. noticing that it's so funny because we look at some of the benefits of which you were there and you testified. Some of the benefits being on the Hookanaw Corning Council and the Alliance of Healthy South Sound. I tried to point out that we spend millions of dollars in state taxpayer money to try and get some of these things done on Old Port or waterfront properties where these people are coming in, building, and going to invest that money for these buffers up front. So it's beneficial for the community, whether anybody wants to look at it or not. It would take us 10, 20 years to get done what they're going to be getting done just in the next year if we were to go for tax money to try and make it happen. Very beneficial, not just to the jobs, even environmentally it's beneficial. See, we got a chance to meet with Dave Wyndham today and Jerry Houth. Again, we're very lucky. I think we did very well in our selections. I'm very happy with our selections. Let's see. We had our support services briefing today in regards to our supplemental budgets. We also had our Board of Health right before this. Coming up the next week in short form, I have the Alliance of Healthy South Sound, the Hood Canal Lodge entrepreneurship competition with the Shelton High School. I'm looking forward to that. If you're reading, I'm reading all these business plans. I admit some of them you can obviously tell are written by kids, but some of them I actually started going on the internet to make sure that there was another one like it, that they were cheating, because I was really impressed with some of them. And I really thought they were cheating. It was that good. But so if our community has that to offer, we're pretty lucky coming up. And I have a feeling we may end up with a few businesses as they get a little older. Let's see. We also have our advanced manufacturing roundtable coming up for the Economic Development Council Temple Board meeting. The Forgotten Run, that's where we take the remains of the veterans that are unclaimed, and we take them to our Heroes Cemetery, and we escort them by motorcycle. The last time I did, I think it went on for several miles of motorcycles escorting them. If anybody remembers the gentleman who in this community did Abe Lincoln and all the parades and stuff when he passed away, believe it or not, he was unclaimed. And he was one that we actually escorted. And it was an honor to escort him. He was a great American from Mason County, I'll tell you. West Sound Alliance, meet with some different developers in regards to some of the potential businesses up north. I'm trying to set up and get an okay to meet with the people from Farmers Market, Belfer Farmers Market, and the fire department to re-quantify their support for a slowdown of the speed limit coming off of 300 down the Old Belfer Highway, at least tell the fire department, because there's been different issues that are going on there, and they'd like to talk about reducing that speed. And now that we have a senior center there, you can imagine there's a lot of people moving a little slowly trying to get around through there. It may be something we need to think about in the community. Other than that, we will not have our briefings. We have our fifth Tuesday up in Belfair, and I look forward to seeing everybody there. And I think I've taken close. We've got 3.5 minutes.
I appreciate that, because I had a very light schedule. I unfortunately lost my father on the 13th of May, and if you can imagine, I have 8 siblings, and all of us trying to plan funerals and the future and everything else. It was very contentious. So, but I appreciate everybody's indulgence in allowing me to take that time with my family. So this week, I came back and we had our briefings yesterday, and then I had a series of phone meetings on various topics, and then we had our Board of Health meeting, our commission meeting tonight. I also will be meeting with Mr. Wyndham tomorrow, a Memorial Hall Committee meeting, a Community Action Council meeting, Mason Matters monthly meeting, the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging meeting, and then I will also be attending the Manufacturing Roundtable on Friday. And then that brings us back to our 5th Tuesday meeting in Belfair on the 31st. I want to take this opportunity to ask, I have a few minutes. The commission had approved some promotional videos that will be done on behalf of Mason County at no cost to us. They do have a video they'd like to create as an intro to the potential sponsors for these videos, and we need somebody to be the spokesperson. Anybody want to volunteer, or do all 3 of us want to be on that video?
I have no desire. You know me, I have a face for radio. I'm okay with that.
Why doesn't the other two nominate the chair as the?
Commissioner, I agree.
Excellent idea.
I'll second that nomination.
All right.
Always wanted to be a video
Sound
star.
good.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, I appreciate
Well,
that.
you're a very enthusiastic face for us, and I think that's what you need.
And we will have facilities pour the fresh concrete for those footprints out.
Thank you. And then this is also an opportunity for us to kind of share back and forth. I just wanted to make sure Commissioner Sheldon was up to speed on some of the Olympic region air quality issues that might be coming forth at the next meeting. One of the things that I just wanted to make you aware of was that the Finance Committee is making recommendation for an increase in wage to the director of, I believe, $4,000. And so that will be something you'll need to vote on. And then just for your information, the agency and the agencies across the state have determined that cannabis or marijuana producers, that is a source of pollution, albeit odor. So they're going to start asking that marijuana producers actually register as a pollutant, like many other known source pollutants have to register with them. So just to let you, and that'll bring in another $40,000 they're estimating. So I just want to make that.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. That'll be next Wednesday
Okay.
at 10 o'clock, and I'll attend. And for the audience benefit, when I don't attend, Commissioner Jeffries often is able to. So I do know that there is a little bit of a conflict there. We're having our Cascadia Rising exercise, which is multi-state, and I think British Columbia. Ross, is that also involved? So the governor will be here, and he will be here from 10:15 till 10:30. Ooh, 20 minutes. So he's flying in. So I'll sacrifice myself and go to Olympia and go to the Orca meeting. So.
Okay.
And I hate to break the news to you, Commissioner, but that one's incorrect. It's the other clock that is correct, and so you still have to buy some more time. I see an employee out here that I don't think's ever been up front to be introduced and explain to everybody who she is and what she does.
Newton?
Yes, I think it's no, behind you. She's getting ready to hit me with something, man. You should have seen her eyes, guys.
Tammy Newton, would you be willing to come to the podium and at least talk about the 100-day challenge
Yes,
to the group?
please.
Tammy Newton is our program manager for housing.
Kill 3
Actually,
minutes,
I know I ruined your title again, so why don't you introduce yourself and to the community?
I love it. They can count on me to talk. I'm Tammy Newton, and I'm with Mason County Public Health and Human Services, and I'm the Human Services Coordinator. So, yeah.
Can't write down this thing.
I know.
Started off as the housing coordinator.
I know. Everybody changed it up. So we've had some exciting stuff going on. We had some releases when we first kicked off the 100-day challenge, and it's a 100-day challenge to end family homelessness. And we completed a competitive letter of interest to the Department of Commerce, and we were one of 3 counties that were selected. So it was Mason County, Cowlitz County, and Thurston County. The challenge is to end family homelessness and also to create a lasting system change within the county so that we can learn from what we've done and apply that to other segments of homelessness within our community. So we started out with 12 homeless families, and these are truly homeless or totally unsheltered families, so it's the HUD definition. Homelessness is interesting depending on which organization you're talking to, but we're going to stick with HUD. So that means folks that truly are unsheltered, that are living in their car, that are living in a tent, that are in a facility not meant for human habitation, or sometimes in a home but there's no power, or there's no water, or there's no plumbing. So we had 12 of those. After our service providers got together and got rid of the duplicates, we actually had 39. So what we found is that coordinated entry and collaboration is something that we can do better at as a community and as service providers. So the great news is that we have been going down the list. We have 10 remaining out of that original 39. We've housed 18 families, and by the way, the 100 days ends on June 3rd. So we've housed 18 families. And that's been through actual housing, moving folks from shelter into permanent housing, and also diversion. So helping folks either stay in their existing location or find a means to get into a new location that might not necessarily be a rental or something along those lines. And of the 8 that we have remaining, the 10 we have remaining, 2 of those are waiting on rental assistance. 4 of those have not been responding, and it's not uncommon that folks self-resolve. And then we have 4 that are remaining truly unsheltered. So starting with 12, ballooning to 39, and by the end of 100 days, looking at 4. And we're going to continue to work through that list, and hopefully we'll be able to make it through the whole list, and looking forward to being able to take what we've learned through this process and apply it, continue to apply it and refine it countywide. And Cowlitz has been great, Thurston has been great, Kitsap has been great. We've been reaching out to other counties. Everyone has been so amazingly supportive and sharing with us the important things of what went right, but saving us some time, money, and energy, and also sharing with us what went wrong. So we don't
Equally
have to do
important.
that. Yes, it is. So we're excited. So June 3rd, June 6th, we have a celebration at the Governor's Mansion, actually, that some folks will be going to, and we're really excited to talk about the great things that have been going on.
Well, thank you, and,
Yeah.
and I agree. One of the first things you said to me when you took this job was that we needed a more coordinated entry program, and I think the evidence is there that you started off with 12, and then once everybody got together, you found out. And so I think that besides 29 families being housed,
Yeah.
this is going to have great fruit come
It
to the
is.
future in coordination between all the people that are trying to work on homelessness in this
It
county.
is. As we all know, we're a large county and we're a vast county, and as Commissioner Sheldon points out, oftentimes we are the most rural county in the state of Washington. And so, you try and imagine being homeless and, all of your belongings being in a backpack or in a tent and trying to get from one end of the county to the other for services. There are challenges around that, definitely. So we're looking forward to being able to better serve those folks and ultimately better serve our community. And as we look at the success stories of getting people housed, we're changing not just people's lives, but we're changing the complexion of our economy in our county, because folks are transitioning into a better place for them, and it's going to be greater success. And I can't wait to share some of the success stories that'll come after the 100 days. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And you bought me all kinds of time. Okay.
Good job.
So now it is 6:33-ish, and we are going to start with our public hearings. Our first public hearing is 9.1, a public hearing to consider the application for a private line occupancy permit for Scott Bernard, doing business as S&S Property Investments, LLC, for water, power, and telephone lines for parcels 22032-50-00920 and 22032-50-90921 underneath Summers Drive, a county road in Shelton, Washington. Melissa McFadden, our county road engineer, would you please introduce this topic for us?
Good evening, Commissioners. Melissa McFadden, Mason County Public Works. Scott Bernard submitted an application for a private land occupancy permit underneath Summers Drive, which is off of Lynch Road, for the purposes of a 2-party well. So it will include water, power, and communication lines that will run under the roadway. They'll be pushed so it will not damage the roadway. And it's been posted in the field, as well as we've had the hearing notice out for 2 weeks in the paper. So if there are any questions.
Any questions, Melissa? Are there any questions from anybody in the audience on this issue? Great, thank you, Melissa. So now we will open up the floor for public testimony. Is there anybody that would like to testify on this matter? Hearing none, I will close the public testimony. Commissioner deliberations.
Well, Madam Chair, I think this is our standard procedure, to have a public hearing for the acceptance of this work. And Melissa, thank you for working on it. I think it's a kind of standard one that we do. So appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, move for the approval of a private line occupancy permit for Scott Bernard, DBA S&S Property Investments, LLC, on Summers Drive for water, power, and telephone lines for parcels number 22032-50-00920 and 22032-50-9091.
And I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the private line occupancy permit for Scott Bernard as stated in the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carried. Thank you. That takes us to the next item. This is, to approve the renewal of the 1/10 of 1% sales and use tax as given by the authority of RCW 82-14-460, sales and use tax for chemical dependency or mental health treatment services or therapeutic courts. We have two staff members that will introduce this issue, and we'll start with Frank Pinter, our interim Director of Support Services.
Thank you, Commissioners. Frank Pinter, Interim Director of Support Services. As you mentioned, this is a public hearing to reauthorize and the continuance of the 1/10 of 1% sales and use tax authorized under RCW. The notice of the intent of the county to renew and or to continue needs to be in to the Department of Revenue by June 8th. That's much earlier than what has been anticipated. The resolution that was put this tax into effect was authorized on November 1st of 2011 for 5 years, but because of the regulation and the legislative changes in the Department of Revenue's requests for notification of sales tax renewals or changes, their date for notifying them is June 8th. So that's why we have the public hearing today. And what I'd like to do is introduce Lydia Buchheit, who will introduce the report and the information in regards to the tax up to this point and going forward. Lydia?
Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Commissioners. So there's a report up here that you might have picked up when you walked in, which is the 2015 Mental Health and Substance Abuse Annual Report. You kind of heard a little bit of the background, but it starts out with the background of how this all started, how this tax came about 4 years ago. We're in our 5th year right now. An advisory committee was pulled together that came up with some guiding principles and also some priorities that they wanted to do and felt that this tax should be used for after they did a lot of research. And that's listed in there what those priorities are. And if I can turn the page and find it. So those are on page 5, which were expand the therapeutic courts, increase availability of licensed mental health and substance abuse professional services, address the revolving door of people who cycle repeatedly through the streets, hospital, emergency room, and jail, and break the intergenerational cycle or prevention strategies, basically, to try to prevent these issues. I've listed some different statistics from the therapeutic courts, 2014 to 2015. And then on the next page, page 7, we review, so we have therapeutic courts, plus we have mental health and substance abuse services as part of the funding that this funds go to. And so the second page on 7 has the intensive case management services that are being done. Then revenue and expenditures, showing you from the beginning kind of what the revenue has been and the expenditures, and for 2015, and now that we're in 16, our budget for this next year to continue the services. On page 9, we talk about the 5-year plans, and basically the advisory committee came up with these 4 priorities, and then the different services on the left-hand side from 12 to 16 talk about what services are being rendered with these funds to fulfill these priorities. Evaluation data has been being collected. It is suggesting that we need more time. It took quite a while to get some of these services up and running because there's a lot of research that had to happen. They're running now, and we have a few more that are just starting to implement this year in the 5th year. And so we're excited about that. There seems to be some great momentum going on and some great things occurring from these services, but we do need to evaluate more to be able to see if we need to make any changes in the future, or, is something not working, or is there something that can be done better. The services that are being offered are required to be evidence-based, which we talk about on one of the pages in there. What that means, it means that it can be replicated and we can be assured that the outcomes of doing these programs will have the same kind of results. So that's a real high-quality request of a program to be able to be evidence-based or promising practice, but that's something where we wanted the money to go to something that was going to be an outcome-based type project so that we can be assured that we'll get our bang for our buck, that we'll actually get some changes that happen. The advisory committee, I want to commend them and thank them for their work that they did these last 4 years in accomplishing what the task was desired to be accomplished in the beginning. At this time, they basically fulfilled it in the last year. They finished all of their work and we haven't been having them meet. We're recommending that it transfer to the Moving Mason Forward, which is the Community Health Improvement Plan, which does have a priority number 2 called Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse and Mental Health. And so there's groups of people already and different work groups that have been meeting for a number of years doing different work, and it feels like this type of work can also be followed and monitored under that plan. 2017-2021, if the tax is reauthorized, the plan would be to continue the same work that's being done right now and continue to expand the courts. I believe the mental health court is starting this year. Continue to let the clientele in the different courts increase so that we can monitor them. And as you see earlier in the plan, some of these programs are 18 months to 2 years long. So it takes a while till we can get some results and see how things are going and also to build them up. So we want to see that continue. And also the intensive case management has data coming out. Our other goal is to actually do a little bit more evaluation, look at the evaluation, the data that we're collecting. I am a data person. I like data. So really looking at the data. Is it the right data? Is it the data that's demonstrating what's actually happening, or do we need to collect some different data? So that's something else that we're working on the second half of this year so that for the next for 2017 and on, if it's reauthorized, that we'd be able to make sure that we're measuring and truly showing that we have the outcomes that we're going for. So,
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either Frank or Lydia?
Is there a sunset clause attached to this particular renewal?
there is not.
Not in the sample resolution, or the proposed resolution. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, just maybe to help with some of the process, understanding the process. So it's my understanding that this existing revenue source can be renewed only by vote of the county commissioners.
That is correct.
So it's not, there's no option to go to the public for their decision.
That's correct.
But I believe that there is an option to go for an advisory vote, but not an option for them, for the citizens to decide.
Correct.
Just their representatives here. Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's how the law was written.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you, Lydia. So we will go ahead and open up the floor for testimony. Anybody would like to testify on whether or not there should be a renewal of the 0.1% chemical dependency mental health tax? Please raise your hand and you'll be recognized. Is there anybody who would like to testify? Commissioner Sauerlander, I was going to ask if you would come talk a little bit about what you do as well. Please come to the podium.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Robert Sauerlander, here to speak on behalf of the renewal of the therapeutic court and mental health court tax. I really appreciate the Commissioners taking up this subject in a timely manner to address and continue to address the needs of the county in terms of mental health. I preside over our county's therapeutic courts that include currently our Family Recovery Court, our Veterans Court, and also our felony drug court. Beginning in June of this year, we will begin operation of a mental health court. Each of these programs have been thought out, have been planned for, and a great many folks, citizens, volunteers, have laid the groundwork for these programs. We've operated our felony drug court since 2003, family recovery court since the end of 2013, and our veterans court since September of last year. I want to briefly just get away from what's typically talked about with our therapeutic courts and focus really on one of the courts, and that's the court that is required under the enabling language in RCW 8214-460, and that is our family recovery court. A lot of the focus of therapeutic courts has been on our felony drug court, veterans court, but from my opinion, there's insufficient focus on family recovery court, and that's one of the reasons that's important. And I appreciate one of the goals, which is to break the intergenerational cycle, and that's what we see in our family recovery court. We see folks who've been through the system, their parents have been through the system, and their grandparents have been through the system. And Family Recovery Court is all about breaking cycles. And I just want to read, and I'm not going to read the entire document. Can I have about 3 more minutes? Please. Okay. And this is a document written by one of our Family Recovery Court members. I've changed the names, but this is authored by her. And I'm not going to read all of it, but I will highlight, because it really exemplifies the typical young lady that is in our Family Recovery Court as a mom. It begins, "My name is Carol, and I'm in FRC," that's Family Recovery Court. "As part of an FRC requirement, I was required to write my story to explain how I got here. Well, here goes." And the next 2 paragraphs show where she describes some of the abuse as a child that she dealt with. I'm not going to go into the details of that. I'm going to continue past that, but just know that that's a common characteristic. A lot of the young ladies that are in these programs, they have been the subject of abuse often in their lives. At age 14, I was introduced to weed and alcohol. I fell in love. They took the pain away from my everyday life and made me feel accepted by the older boys I drank and smoked with. Although my brother was always my abuser, I still felt the need to gain his approval, and I could get his approval through my drug use. With my parents, my brother's use was okay, so I assumed it was okay. And then she goes on to describe her relationship with her parents. And another common characteristic, abuse and also neglect by parents. And I'm not going to go into the details of that. But she writes, "I used Oxy and drank on occasion until I got pregnant." Another common characteristic, abuse, neglect, early teen pregnancy. 3 months after moving to Colorado, I found I was pregnant again. The cycle repeats. Frank and I moved out on our own when Adam, that was her child, was 4 months old. That was when the occasional use of Oxy turned into a use every day, all day. Smoking Oxy had taken over my life. I'm going to continue, skip ahead. I only stayed clean for 2 months after treatment. Now, being on my own and vulnerable, my brother came to me sick from heroin. My brother's bright idea was to pimp me out. I refused for a while until I could no longer find drugs on my own. I became desperate, so I finally gave in. I prostituted myself for about 6 months until I started dating a guy named David. And again, all these names have been changed. I became the typical heroin junkie, doing whatever needed to desperately get my dope. Continuing on with her life story. By this time in my life, I had started to mutilate myself, and it had gotten even worse. Living back with my parents, where I'm supposed to feel safe and protected, but it was the complete opposite, as it always had been. Then she became pregnant again. I was still pregnant at this time, and about 1 month prior to when my daughter, Kaylee, was born, and I was prescribed Suboxone, but within 3 months after giving birth to Kaylee, I started shooting heroin again. Suboxone is a medically assisted treatment often used to help treat those who are using any opiate, including heroin, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Then CPS got involved. We had a few in-home observations from CPS, but nothing big. 2 days after returning to my parents' house, the kids were removed from our care by CPS. I thought I was going to die from heartache, so I started to use even more to numb the pain of it all. We lived solely for heroin and meth, but tried tricking ourselves into believing that we didn't need to change. We blamed CPS and believed that they should just give us our kids back. She goes on to write, I'd always told Adam is her oldest son, that the cops were there to keep us safe and that they arrest only the bad guys. Adam told me that Bill and I must be the bad guys now, and that was it for her. And she decided to involve herself in family recovery court. Not only her, but her husband, who was also a heroin user. Long story short, each of them has successfully graduated from our family recovery court. And those children who were at risk aren't at risk today. They are being parented by two highly capable parents who no longer use drugs. It's really a great story. And this person who is Carol in this narrative, she's now one of our volunteer mentors for our family recovery court. She's involved in the process of helping other mothers change their lives. And so the reason I bring this to your attention is that often lost in the discussion of therapeutic courts, because it doesn't save any jail space, but it does break that generational cycle. And I appreciate the recognition of that. I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the courts.
If you don't mind, we as a commission had asked the Superior Court to draft out a 5-year plan for therapeutic courts, because this has obviously become a very, very important part of our judicial system here in Mason County. Would you kind of, if you can, in a very short amount of time, speak to what your vision is for the future of therapeutic courts?
Sure. And the 5-year plan, which will be available to anybody, instead of printing out several copies, and by the way, this is a draft for further discussion, just so it's real clear. This is done by the Superior Court to identify where we have come from and also where we're going. As a court, one of the most pronounced changes will be the mental health court that's coming up and will begin in June. If you take a look at some of the statistics coming from the Mason County Jail, a great number of individuals there have a mental health issue. Often it's a co-occurring issue, drugs and mental health. So that's probably the biggest change. We also discuss in the plan some changes regarding enhancement of our mentor programs for early intervention. Also taking a look at some of the things that we're trying to do to find out what is interfering with those coming into our programs. We are constantly in the process of self-review, taking a look at what perhaps could be done better, what we're doing well, and that is going to be a continuing emphasis as well. One of the things that, and I'll say frankly, I don't like is that in our felony drug court since inception, our graduation rate is 38%. We need to have more folks graduate, because if you take a look at our felony recidivism rate for those who graduate, it is, I believe, 18%. I think that you folks have the document, whereas Those who have entered our program and do not graduate, that felony recidivism rate is 44%. So what can we do as a program to have more folks graduate from the program? So those are some of the things that we're looking at. We're in conversations with other folks regarding medically assisted treatment over this past year. All of our courts now accept some form of medically assisted treatment. In our Family Recovery Court, we accept the full gamut of medically assisted treatment, which includes Suboxone, methadone, Vivitrol. In our other courts, we are more looking at the appropriateness of protagonist type medication rather than agonist and antagonist. I could go into the very limited chemistry of it that I understand if you'd like me to. Thank you. But we're in the process of improving our programs. After we are done this evening, Mr. Dorsey, Mr. Whitehead, other individuals are headed to Yakima for a day-and-a-half training. And I really want to thank the prosecutor's office for being involved and being a leader in the program. And they're not sitting back, not considering other alternatives. There are other alternatives, and I've never known the prosecutor's office not to fully consider other options if presented that information in an appropriate way. So, other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unbeknownst to me, I had the joy of hosting that family at my house for a barbecue. It wasn't until I was saying goodbye to them that they shared with me that they were in that court. And it was in the middle of that, and I never saw a more motivated couple in my life, mostly because they wanted their children back.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, because what we're seeing with just another aspect of that family is that the husband is employed now full-time. He's working for his family, his children, and we're just excited for Family Recovery Court. By the way, of the 21 children who have been returned home, for those who've either graduated or had their cases successfully dismissed, none of those children have come back to care. So that's very important to us.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I
Thank you.
appreciate your work there. Is there anybody else that would like to testify? Sir. Mr. Toby, please.
Madam Chairperson, Commissioners, excuse my voice. I have a cold, but I have a similar story to the one that Commissioner Solander just read. I won't get into my story in detail. I will just let you know that I was in 35 years of active addiction before I entered Veterans Court. My life pretty much was spiraling downhill. I lost everything I had. I was living on the streets of Shelton at the time, and I had no positive outlook on my future. I didn't care. And I was approached, I was incarcerated, and I was approached by a couple members of the Veterans Administration, came down and talked to me. I am a vet, and they asked me about if I would be interested in a program that I had no idea existed. They said it was going to be very tough. The whole point of the program was accountability. I had to become accountable for everything that I did. And the person that came down there was Tom Davis. I said, yes, sure, I would like to try that. Everything else I've tried in my life didn't work, hadn't worked at the time. So he talked to me a little more. Him and Leon Huggins talked to me, and I was allowed to come up out of jail and observe VA court for 3-4 weeks before I was accepted into the program. And I'm now an active participant in Veterans Court. I have 60 days court clean time, but in all actuality, I have 6 months clean time.
Congratulations.
And this program, for me, has been a lifesaver. and all the support that is involved. I have a support group like I've never had before in getting clean and staying clean. My commissioner, the prosecutor Whitehead, they're all so very supportive of my success. It's something I've never had before in my life, and this program for me has saved my life and is saving my life, and I just hope that you vote to continue this program. I'm still in it, but I am going to be a success story in this program. There's no question. It's something I want. It's something that I need. It's obtainable. It's very, very tough. It's a tough program, but it's all about accountability. It's all about taking responsibility for everything you do. It's about making it to appointments. It's about actively seeking employment. It's about becoming a more responsible, productive member of the society that we live in. And I'm all for it. It's what I need. I have to have this. And there are others in the program that they need it too. We need this program very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you for your service to our country. Is there anybody else that would like to testify? Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ramona Frank, and I'd like to do a testimony on behalf of Northwest Resource and Dilma Demetrio. I came to Shelton, got in trouble, and I became homeless for 2 weeks, and I was using drugs. And I came to Shelton to Dilma, and she had so many resources. I was accepted into the Oxford House, Women's House, after only 7 days of being clean. And I stayed there for a month. I went to treatment in Spokane for 60 days, came back, and still had my bed at the Oxford House. And I attended my IOP and my OP through DOC. I graduated, did my community service, and 2 of the DOC officers came to me personally and congratulated me. They don't do that often. And I live in the Oxford House now, and without Dilma helping people in the community to get in the Oxford houses or into mental health or BHR or just, taking them to their appointments they need, we would have nothing. And I just want to say it works. And I also have one other thing. I heard you talking about mental health. And we have girls that come from prison, treatment centers, off the streets, from jail. And, a lot of them, they don't have their medication for the mental illness. And I try to do a lot of service work in our home by helping them get doctor's appointments. And it seems like our doctors in Mason County, these people really need the medicine now. Not like one girl tried to get an appointment last week, and her appointment's not till September. So she has to go from today till September with all those meds.
Thank you for sharing that. That is a difficulty here.
Yeah. But anyway, I just want to say Northwest Resources, great. It's great for me. It's great for a lot of women and men in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just need to share too, Dilma, you are my hero, my personal hero. Northwest Resources is one of the contractors who receives some of these monies that are generated through this tax for what we call intensive case management. And if you look on page 8 of the report that was given out, the numbers that are there on the numbers there, you almost single-handedly worked with every one of those clients. And I don't know how you do it, Dilma. I don't know how you do it, but thank you for your work.
I say something. I just love my community, and I want to pay back for
this contributed to my family. That's what I want to do, and I want to see Mason County clean, and don't see homeless or people using drugs.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that'd like to testify? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Amber. I'm a client of SOS. I came into this town a year and a half ago. I was a drug addict. I had a CPS case. I was couch surfing. I had nothing, and I came to this town and moved into Turning Point. I finally left a domestic violence relationship that I was in denial about for years. I came there, and the only thing I knew in this town is I needed to get an assessment done at Northwest Resources. That's what the court ordered. That's what I needed to do. I had no medical. So I went in and they did the assessment and they told me, go talk to Dilma. Like, who's Dilma, So they pointed out SOS Resources and I went down there and she tried her best to get me on medical and all I needed was a copy of my ID. She sent me to her copy machine to do that and I couldn't even figure out how to run a copy machine and I broke down in her office crying. I was just at the end of my rope. I couldn't even run a copy machine, you guys. Mind mush, really bad. And she sat down and she mentored me and she was there for me and she got me on medical. I put her to the test. I was like, okay, she can help me. Let's see if she can help others. And I was sending people from Turning Point. I'm like, Dilma can do it. She'll help you. And she did. She helped every single one of them. So I see faces in here that helped me throughout this last year. I've used every resource available and I am on top. I work at Turning Point now. I'm a parent mentor. I get to help other parents with CPS cases. I relinquished my rights with my little one, but I'm okay with that decision, and I help other parents so maybe they don't have to do that or have that same decision to make. So SOS and everywhere else, it's great. Shelton's great. We need these programs.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to testify? Former Commissioner Bloomfield.
Steve Bloomfield, 391 Southeast Dahlman Road, Shelton. Just a couple of comments. One, I like this. Thank you for putting this out. Thanks, Health. You guys did a great job. I was hoping for this a little sooner, but I realized some of the programs take a while to ramp up. But it finally come out, and it's pretty telling. Looking at intensive case management veterans, 64 enrolled, 4 dropped out, 0. Well, participants received mental health, 46. Participants incarcerated with a new arrest while enrolled, 0. That's where we wanted to get with this program when it was installed. You help one person. By the way, they don't let me touch the copy machine either. But these are the stories that we were hoping would come forward out of this some nearly 5 years ago, and man, this is what I wanted to hear. This makes my whole week. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Sergojian, this is our Public Defense Administrator.
Good evening, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. Susan Sergojian, Public Defender for Mason County, and I'd just like to indicate our strong support for the continuation of this tax. We see stories like these all the time. We represent the people that are in all these courts. We also represent people that are not in these courts that we wish were in the courts. One of the most frustrating things about my job is hearing everybody talk about jail overcrowding. I go to talk to my clients in the jail. Why are they there? Probably half of them are there because they have untreated mental health issues, undiagnosed mental health issues. They're self-medicating. And if we can somehow use this tax money to change that statistic so that people are getting the treatment they need, I think we'll see a dramatic decrease in the amount of crime. Not only will we improve their quality of life, we'll improve it for the entire county of Mason, because those untreated mental health patients are responsible for a lot of crime a lot of the resources that are wasted on jail space, which should be spent on mental health treatment. In addition, I also represent youth in this county, both youth who are offenders. I represent the youth who are dependent as a result of substance abuse and untreated mental health issues. One thing that I'd like to, when we talk about the next 5 years, one of my visions is for youth therapeutic courts. We have youth as young as 9, 10 years old, frequently 13, 14 years old, who are not just experimenting with drugs, but are using them with it on a daily basis, oftentimes using them with their parents. And that's another part of the puzzle, I think, in stopping the cycle of abuse, is to offer treatment younger, so we don't wait till people are 20, 30, 40 years old before we help them. We identify problems and use some of these funds to help stop it. And I think there is a lot of successful research showing that youth drug court, youth mental health court is very effective in changing that tide early on, so that we don't have to wait until years and lives are wasted. So I just would like to reiterate my support for that, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis, I'm the Volunteer Veteran Mentor Coordinator in Mason County. The Veterans Court has its own veteran mentor component, and but we work closely together. At this time, I'd just like to say that we shouldn't forget our history. And the history in this matter is that I've been involved in this 1/10 of 1% therapeutic court tax and programs for 4.5 years now. Before we had the tax, while Vicki Kirkpatrick proposed this to the county commissioners at the time, back in 2011, and it's hard to say, okay, we have some good ideas, but it's going to require a tax. And even though it's a very, very, very small tax, it's still a tax, and you have to overcome that. And she did a remarkable job. It was an uphill battle. I want to make sure the public recognizes how much Vicki Kirkpatrick, the former public health director, contributed to this. We're here today, and these folks are here today as a direct result of Vicki Kirkpatrick's work. And I spoke to her up there in Jefferson County, because I'm going to go up there and try and start a veterans court up there, and I wanted her help. And she said, "Tom, I love you, but I really need this job, so come slowly." And so we will work in other counties to do that. Part of what we do, and part of why this works so well, the court itself is structured and formatted in a way that doesn't allow for a lot of flexibility. But having said that, any obstacle that's in the way of participation in any therapeutic court program has to be looked at with a critical eye. There are several major considerations that could be overcome, and if we came to a conclusion, a favorable conclusion, on how to deal with some of these issues, some of these restrictions, we would more than double, probably quadruple our participation in these therapeutic courts. More people in, more graduates out. Right now, it's my sense that in some of the courts, we're operating at maybe 25 or 30% of the capacity, but paying 100% of the cost. Now, there has to be a component where you take the money and you put it against the performance. There has to be. It's a tax. People expect that. We all have good hearts. We want it to go in the right direction. But again, we need to not exclude people. We need to find ways to include everyone we can. And there is several ways we can do that. And I believe during the 5-year plan, Commissioner Sauerlander will address those. I would hope that some of the obstacles that are in the way of getting greater participation in these therapeutic plans. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we don't stop here in Mason County. When someone has a problem and they've made some bad choices, they usually don't make one bad choice, they make a bunch of them. And they don't make them just in Mason County, they make them in other counties. And so part of the therapy, part of your recovery, part of your commitment to therapeutic court is that you go and own up to both past and present behaviors. And a lot of that time, in terms of Veterans Court, which is near and dear to my heart, you wind up going to different counties to clean up other offenses that you had. And it's a bit of a surprise when you go to another county and you stand next there to your veteran and you talk to the judge and he says, "Were you arrested?" No, we weren't arrested. We called up, we put a package together, we spoke to the prosecutor. We're here to tell you we've got this guy wrapped up with services. We've got him wrapped up with hope, and we'll take care of him if you'll allow us. And every single time we've done that in another county, they've let the sentence run concurrent with his completion of the program, of the therapeutic court program in Mason County. So he finishes here, he finishes everywhere, every single time. And what I've found is that people are so receptive, inside and outside the county, for when you have that level of commitment, when people decide to change their life and make that level of commitment, everybody climbs on board to help them. And they didn't realize all that help was out there, but all that help is out there. And a one-on-one, when you have one, in the case of Veterans Court, one veteran talking to another veteran, you cannot, there's no substitute for that. You can't replicate it, you can't administer to it. You must get down in the trenches, if you will. You must connect with someone. You must be willing to find out not only things about the person that you might be mentoring, but also things about yourself in the process. It's a very rewarding thing. So, of course, I'm in complete and absolute support of this program. My sense is that all three commissioners are too at this time, and I thank you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you for your service to the veterans. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Hearing none, I'll close testimony and move to commissioner deliberations. Commissioners.
Well, Madam Chair, I'll say that all of us that live in Mason County, we're very proud of it. A beautiful place to live. We're proud of the history. And as you learn more about Mason County, you understand that we have a lot of dysfunction. We have a lot of people that are struggling and are hurting out there. And I think this revenue source, some call it a tax, let's call it a revenue source tonight, has been effective. I don't think it was very effective when it started 5 years ago because everything has to ramp up. And I hope that we can continue the progress that we've made and it'll progress even faster. I'm very proud of the people that came here and testified, especially those that gave a testimonial, that are struggling themselves. And I think they're here because they really want to help others. It's amazing how many people go into these careers that are former addicts, that struggle, and I think they just have that desire to help. One thing I would caution, it's great to do things yourselves in a county that's very small. We have less than 1% of the population of the state of Washington. I think we have to look for opportunities to partner with larger counties. The state has prioritized mental health. We've done a lot in Olympia in the last few years to make it to bring it to the surface and to spend money and to find funding. But we are a subdivision of the state, and we can take advantage of some of those state funds, as Dave Wyndham points out to me today. Some of these funds are only available to counties that are population of 100,000, but if we partner with some of the counties around us, we can also take advantage of those opportunities. So it's just a great program. We're off to a great start, and I'm really in support of what you're doing, and thank you very much to all the service providers that are here today and all those families that are helping to help others.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I do want to recognize that it is a tax. I've had communication with many different people, but we got to remember that government does have a purpose sometimes. And sometimes these things are necessary in order to move money from another place that you would have expended it if you didn't expend it this way. You know, there was, former Commissioner Bloomfield came up and read some of the statistics that people at home wouldn't have them at home. So one of the things he was pointing out was a specific statistic for veterans, which I will tell you we learn over and over again, it's a different animal than some of the other issues that they deal with. As I attended that one veteran thing on your behalf, and the gentleman came in with PTSD and was losing it at the door, and you were explaining to me, this is what we do.
We paid him $20.
I tell you, those type of things win you over quickly, and you start realizing, how do you even work with that? How do you control that at that time, as they calmly do? Certain things need to be pointed out. You know, we've gone around a little bit. Tom Davis is, you know, we can battle all day long, but I tell you what, he's the hero to me. I think he's an incredible man, the way he keeps stepping up for those veterans. I want to point out a little something when it comes to money. They do some incredible things, some great numbers. The numbers are not near as high, but you know, the money's less too for the veterans. But you're talking about 64 enrolled. Even if 2 of them are like what I've seen, it's going to affect the other 62. The idea that for those of you that home, out of 64 that enrolled, that mental health professionals took care of, there 0, again, I want to repeat that, 0 dropped out of the case management. I don't know how that's even possible. You know, I automatically would want to question that because it's so, but I also had heard this before elsewhere about some of the other aspects that you're running through when it comes to the veterans. We seem to be a lot smarter than we used to be, and are very successful in some of the work we're doing, but it goes down on how many of them have been reincarcerated. 0. Taking some of them off the streets and giving them permanent housing. The point I want to make to some of my friends out there who had an issue with it being a tax, it's real easy to look at it that way, but I'll tell you what, we need this to work, and we need them to be successful, because you don't notice it because they're not in front of your car screaming at your family or beating down your door or catching you in the street. Because you don't see them is the sign of success, not the fact that they're out there, and that's something you can't quantify. So even somebody like myself is going to tell you that sometimes these things are absolutely necessary. I want to point out a little pat on the back for mental health professionals. Those 64 cases that they handled, they actually were paid for 32. Sometimes people stand up and just do more than they're supposed to. And I wanted to point that out, and I'm telling you that because another young lady mentioned Turning Point and her story. And I want to remind you, this tax doesn't wash our hands of our duties to do other things out there just because we're paying for it a little bit. Turning Point is an incredible, very dear to my heart situation, and they help a lot of people, and it's up to all of us to do more than just the tax, but to actually stand up and go to the homeless shelter or feed some of them or go and help Turning Point. People may not realize Turning Point, they just think of it as a place for a shelter for battered women and the like. There's children in there. Last year, we did a little thing for the kids and made some stockings and stuff like that for 30 children behind those doors in there. So just remember, there's more to it than the bit that we do. This little bit of a tax, although it is a tax, is saving us money in the long run. And besides that, as I said again, think of the benefit as you're not seeing them at your front door, kicking in your door, or dealing with them as they need to steal to come in and get a few more drugs. So with that, I will be definitely in support of it.
Thank you. I'm also very much in support in continuing the tax. When this tax was first passed and the advisory group got together about how to spend the money, one of the first things that came out in the surface, and I joined that group at the very tail end of their work, so I might get this wrong in the timing of it, but was the understanding that there wouldn't be enough money to actually provide services. And so they knew that, and as Commissioner Sheldon brought up, that, there's partnership opportunities, and one of the greatest ones we had was the expansion of Medicaid and the parity given for chemical dependency and mental health treatments for Medicaid-eligible people. And that provided a tremendous amount of opportunity to leverage what little money this tax brought in and make it a bigger thing. Most of these folks, this intensive case management services that are being provided are that extra help and need to keep people on track. And so I think we're leveraging something that's already out there. The courts piece is so important in that I'm very proud of Mason County's restorative justice efforts. And you can lock people away and throw away the key, and that's not going to help. I think there's a lot more work we can do with this tax vis-a-vis the jail. There was intention at the beginning, and we still need to work on making sure that we've got the case management services available to people right before they get out of jail. So that, as somebody once said to me, sometimes when you get out of jail, there can be two people waiting for you, your drug dealer or your case manager. Who do you want them to have holding a hand out to them? So we've got to do a better job with that. And I would like, on the data collection piece, that we look at recidivism as being a performance measure. Because I think that's what the community that's paying this tax wants to see, is less criminal activity, as well as, of course, drug use and the mental health are properly treated and not being treated in our jails, which is so inappropriate. I look forward to seeing what happens. Lydia, thank you for the work you picked up from on this whole thing, and Lydia is tight. She's going to make sure that we're measuring our performance on this. I appreciate that very much. And thank you to our service providers. Thank you to the people that came forward and had the courage. And thank you for everybody that laid the path to where we are today. Given that, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, this tight son of a gun financially, with great pride, moves that we authorizing the continuance of the 1/10 sales and use tax as given by the authority of RCW 82.14.460, sales and use tax for chemical dependency or mental health treatment services or therapeutic courts.
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution that authorizes the continuance of the 1/10 sales and use tax as given by the authority of the RCW 82.14.460, sales and use tax for chemical dependency or mental health treatment services or therapeutic courts. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to mention that no one came tonight to oppose this, which is unusual. Not everything that we pass is unanimous or unopposed. So I think that shows you that people are out there that are hoping this works. They didn't come and bring the torches or anything to say, wow, this is lots of money. And but I think one thing we really need to do is make sure we have performance indicators, that we show people how the money is being spent and it's effective. And that's something we always have to remember. So thank you.
Madam Chair, when this was created, it was controversial out there, and it still is a little bit. There's still some phone calls. I want to give kudos to those who had the strength to stand up and do it the first time and turned out to be right. I was not part of that. I was not here, and I don't think I was even supportive, to be honest with you. But so kudos to the past commission who had the guts to stand up and make it happen.
If there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for being here and supporting this. So that takes us to our final item is department heads and elected officials. Is there any department heads or elected officials?
Come on, who wants to try and top that? Madam Chair, I move for
adjournment.
Adjournment.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.